In a quiet, forgotten village, far from the bustling cities, there was a man named Jack. His name echoed through the hills, but not because of any good deeds. Jack wasn't the kind of man you would ever trust. In fact, no one would even call him a friend. He had earned a nasty reputation. Jack was a trickster, a liar, and most of all, a drunkard. His sneaky ways made sure that everyone who met him would remember him, though not fondly. His sharp tongue and wicked grin were not easily forgotten. Every evening, you could find Jack in the village pub. He would sit hunched over his drink, his eyes constantly watching everyone in the room. It was as if he was always looking for someone to fool or deceive. He thrived on causing trouble. If there was a fight, a misunderstanding, or a problem, Jack was always at the center of it, laughing at the chaos he had caused. People whispered about him behind his back. They said his heart was as dark as coal, and they began to call him Stingy Jack. The trickster's infamy. Jack's reputation wasn't limited to just the village. His tricks and scams spread far beyond the local area. Stories of his deceit traveled to nearby towns and even further to places unknown. People talked about how he had swindled farmers out of their hard-earned crops or tricked lost travelers with fake maps that led them further into the wilderness. Jack's cunning knew no limits. Wherever there was an opportunity to take advantage of someone, Jack was there. His name became legendary for all the wrong reasons. Though he lived in a small, remote village, Jack's greed was as large as the world itself. He lived only for himself, taking whatever he could from others, caring little for who got hurt in the process. He didn't even seem to mind the suffering he caused. In fact, some people thought Jack actually enjoyed watching others struggle after he tricked them. He was selfish to the core, and his thirst for mischief never seemed to end. But Jack's tricks weren't just clever, they were dangerous. His greed and arrogance led him to believe he was untouchable. He had outsmarted so many people that he began to think no one, not even supernatural forces, could outwit him. He had no fear of consequence, no fear of retribution. A strange night in the pub. It was a cold, windy evening when Jack's life took a turn that even he couldn't have predicted. Like most nights, he stumbled into the village pub, ready for an evening of drinking and troublemaking. The pub was warm and cozy, filled with the chatter of villagers and the clinking of mugs. Jack, as usual, scanned the room, looking for an easy target, a drunk farmer or a naive traveler who he could trick into buying him drinks or giving him money. But tonight, something felt different. The air in the pub felt thick, almost heavy, as though a storm was on the way. Yet outside, the sky was clear, and the wind had died down. Jack was too drunk to notice. He already had several pints by the time he noticed the man sitting next to him. This man wasn't from the village. Jack had never seen him before, and there was something strange about him. He was dressed in fine clothes, far too fine for someone visiting such a shabby little pub. His skin was pale, his eyes dark and unsettling, and his smile seemed almost dangerous. "What's your name, then?" Jack slurred, eyeing the stranger with a mix of curiosity and suspicion. The man turned slowly to face Jack, his smile growing wider. His eyes seemed to glint in the dim light of the pub. "You can call me." "Well, that doesn't matter now, does it, Jack?" Jack's blood ran cold. He hadn't told the man his name. He sat up straighter, suddenly feeling very sober. There was something wrong with this man, something that made Jack feel uneasy. He had dealt with many strange people in his life, but this one seemed different, otherworldly. The stranger leaned in closer, lowering his voice to a whisper. Yet, despite the noise of the pub, Jack heard him as clearly as if he were shouting. "I've come for you, Jack. Your time is up." A chill ran down Jack's spine. For a moment, the drunken haze that usually clouded his mind lifted, and he felt the weight of the man's words. This wasn't just any man. This was the devil himself, come to collect Jack's soul. Jack had heard stories about people meeting the devil. There were legends of those who had made deals with him, selling their souls for riches or power. But Jack never thought it would happen to him. Sure, he had lived a sinful life, but surely it wasn't his time yet. Or was it? Desperate measures. Jack's mind raced. He wasn't ready to die, and he certainly wasn't ready to face whatever awaited him in the afterlife. If there was one thing Jack was good at, it was talking his way out of bad situations. He had tricked farmers, travelers, and even the local priests. Surely, he could outsmart the devil too. "Well now, devil," Jack began, forcing a sly smile onto his face. "You've caught me at a bad time, you see. I've got no money to my name. But how about this? Before you take my soul, how about buying me one last drink? I mean, what's the harm in that?" The devil, amused by Jack's boldness, chuckled. "One last drink, Jack? Very well. I'll buy you a drink." With a wave of his hand, the devil transformed himself into a shiny silver coin. Jack watched in awe as the coin glimmered in the dim light of the pub. He picked it up, rolling it between his fingers. But Jack, being the trickster he was, had no intention of buying a drink with the coin. Instead, he slipped the coin into his pocket, right beside a small silver cross he always carried with him. The moment the coin touched the cross, the devil was trapped. He could not return to his true form. Jack smirked. "You see, devil, you may be powerful, but you're not the only one with tricks up your sleeve." The devil, now powerless in the form of a coin, was furious. His voice echoed inside Jack's mind, demanding to be released. "Let me go," the devil growled, his anger burning like fire in Jack's thoughts. But Jack, ever the trickster, shook his head. "Not so fast, devil. I'll let you go, but on one condition: you don't take my soul for an entire year." The devil, with no other choice, grudgingly agreed. Jack removed the coin from his pocket and placed it on the bar. With a flash of fire, the devil returned to his true form, glaring at Jack before vanishing in a puff of smoke. The devil's return, the year passed quickly for Jack. He continued his life as usual, drinking, scheming, and causing trouble. But as the months went by, he couldn't shake the feeling that his time was running out. He knew the devil would come for him again. Jack spent the last few weeks of the year looking over his shoulder, always expecting to see the devil lurking in the shadows. And sure enough, on the last day of the year, the devil appeared again. This time, Jack was ready. He had thought long and hard about how to trick the devil once more. When the devil came to collect Jack's soul, Jack put on his most innocent face and said, "I know you've come for me, but before you take me, could you do me one small favor? You see, I've been living a sinful life, but I'd like to do one good deed before I go. Could you help me pick an apple from that tall tree? I'm too weak to reach it myself." The devil, suspicious but intrigued, agreed. He climbed the tree to pick the apple for Jack. But as soon as the devil was high in the branches, Jack carved a cross into the tree trunk, trapping the devil once again. Furious, the devil demanded to be released. Jack, grinning up at him, said, "I'll let you down, but you have to promise not to take my soul for another 10 years. The devil, defeated once more, had no choice but to agree. Jack erased the cross, and the devil disappeared once again. Jack's fate 10 years passed, and Jack continued his life of trickery. But eventually, his time ran out. When Jack finally died, he found himself at the gates of heaven. But St. Peter refused to let him in. telling Jack that there was no place in heaven for a man as wicked as him. So Jack turned to the gates of hell, hoping the devil would take him in. But the devil, still angry about being tricked, refused Jack's entry. "You're not welcome here either," the devil said, slamming the gates shut. With nowhere to go, Jack was forced to wander the earth as a lost soul, carrying only a single burning coal to light his way. He placed the coal inside a carved-out turnip, creating a lantern to guide him through the darkness. And so, Jack became known as Jack-o'-lantern, forever wandering the earth, his trickery finally catching up to him. His legend lives on, a reminder that even the cleverest tricksters must face their fate in the end. A year of false promises for the next year, Jack did what he always did, drank, schemed, and tricked anyone he could. But in the back of his mind, he knew the devil would return. The deal had only bought him time, not salvation. Jack tried to live better, tried to reform his ways. He stopped drinking for a while, tried to be kinder, more generous. But old habits die hard, and before long, Jack was back to his old tricks. A year passed, and sure enough, the devil returned. "Your time is up, Jack," the devil said, appearing out of thin air one evening as Jack walked along a quiet road. Jack, always quick to think, raised his hands. "Wait, before you take me, how about one last request? Just one simple favor. I'm a hungry man, and all I want is an apple from that tree over there." The devil, growing impatient, glanced at the tree. "Fine," he snapped. "One apple, and then your soul." The devil climbed the tree to fetch the apple, but the moment he reached the top, Jack acted. He quickly carved a cross into the trunk of the tree, trapping the devil once more. The devil roared with anger. "Not again, Jack." Jack, grinning, leaned against the tree. "I think it's time we make another deal." The devil seethed, but had no choice. "What do you want this time?" "I want you to promise," Jack said, his voice serious now, "that you will never take my soul. Not now, not ever." The devil, fuming with rage, had no choice but to agree. "Fine," he growled. "Your soul is yours. But know this, Jack, when you die, there will be no place for you. Not in heaven. Not in hell. You'll be doomed to wander forever." Jack, confident he had outsmarted the devil once again, carved out the cross from the tree and released him. The devil vanished, but his words lingered in Jack's mind like a dark shadow. Death comes for Jack years passed, and Jack continued his life of sin and mischief. But as he grew older, his body weakened, and the weight of his choices began to weigh heavily on his soul. He knew his time was running out. Eventually, Jack's time did come. He passed away, alone, with no friends or family by his side. But death was not the end of Jack's troubles. When Jack's soul left his body, he approached the gates of heaven, hoping for mercy. But the gates did not open for him. The angels turned him away, reminding him of the selfish, sinful life he had led. He was not worthy of heaven's peace. Disheartened, but not surprised, Jack made his way to the gates of hell. He had tricked the devil once, twice even. Surely the devil would welcome him now. But as he reached the fiery gates, the devil appeared, a wicked grin on his face. "You're not welcome here, Jack," the devil said. "Remember our deal? I promised never to take your soul." Jack was stunned. "But where am I supposed to go?" he asked, panic rising in his chest. The devil's grin widened. "That's not my problem, Jack. You're doomed to wander forever. A lost soul." Before Jack could protest, the gates of hell slammed shut, leaving him in eternal darkness. The birth of the Jack-o'-lantern with nowhere to go. Jack wandered the earth, lost and alone. The nights were cold, and the darkness was unbearable. Desperate for light, Jack begged the devil for help. The devil, amused by Jack's plight, tossed him a single burning coal. "Here," the devil sneered, "this will light your way." Jack took the coal and placed it inside a hollowed-out turnip he had found along his path. The glowing coal illuminated the night, casting eerie shadows as Jack wandered aimlessly, a lost soul forever trapped between the world of the living and the dead. Over time, people began to see Jack's ghostly figure wandering the countryside, his glowing turnip lantern lighting his way through the dark. They called him Jack of the Lantern, or simply Jack-o'-lantern. As the legend of Jack spread, people began carving their own lanterns out of turnips, placing them outside their homes on Halloween to ward off wandering spirits like Jack. Eventually, the tradition evolved, and pumpkins replaced turnips. Faces were carved into the pumpkins, and candles were placed inside to create glowing, haunting figures that would keep Jack and other spirits at bay. And so, the legend of Jack-o'-lantern was born, an eternal symbol of Halloween, a reminder of the price of selfishness and the consequences of outsmarting even the devil himself. The legend lives on to this day. People carve Jack-o'-lanterns every Halloween, keeping the spirit of Jack alive. His tale serves as a warning, a reminder that no matter how clever you think you are, no one can escape their fate forever. And so, on cold, dark nights when the wind howls and the pumpkins glow, think of Jack wandering the earth, his lantern flickering in the shadows, searching for a place he will never find. Final call to action: if this chilling tale of Jack-o'-lantern kept you on the edge of your seat, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and ring the bell for more spine-tingling stories. Share this video with your friends if they're brave enough, and tell us in the comments which part of Jack's legend creeped you out the most. Who knows? Your suggestion might inspire our next story. Stay spooky.